Hey everybody, it's Saturday, September 8th, and we have a potentially catastrophic weather event that's in the forecast for next week. Hurricane Florence could come dangerously close to where I live. It's supposed to be a big threat for the southeast coast, so I wanted to give an update on my garden now while everything's standing and show you what my progress is, because some stuff might be knocked down come the end of this week. I wanted to start on the inside. First things first, my Latarula Italian honey fig is a total disaster. It hasn't been growing for a few weeks ever since I did the pruning, and I was wondering what the problem was. Well, I dug down around the soil line, and it looks like that either something was eating at the stem, right at the root ball, or some kind of rot set in, and it just completely separated the fig from the root mass. So the good news is I saved a bunch of cuttings and I've been rooting them for a few weeks. I'll have a video on that to follow, but I also separated the stem and the root mass, so I might actually get a little bit of good luck out of this. So here I have 3 of the cuttings that I saved from my original prune job on the Italian honey fig. They all look really good. It's looking like they're all going to take. The leaves are great. I'm still keeping them inside bags to preserve the moisture, and I'm going to do that for a few more weeks to let the root mass develop. Then over here I have my Italian honey fig tree that got snapped in half somehow. So what I was able to do was I separated the cutting. This cutting is just stuck directly into the ground, and I'm getting a nice bud on the top. And then if I follow this down, you can see I'm starting to get some roots down here. Yeah, that's a rooted fig right there. So this tree is buried almost all the way down in this 1-gallon pot. The bottom is probably about here. So all I did was I just sprayed it with a little bit of water, shoved it right in this pot, and kept the plastic bag over it. It's a 1-gallon freezer bag. It's been there for a week, and I should have a fully recovered tree. It'll be a little bit behind schedule, but that's okay. This is the root ball that is remaining, and if you can see, there's just a little bit of green right there. There's a good chance that it may actually send up some shoots from this root ball. This is where the tree was separated, where something either ate it or just simply rotted off. So I may have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 different trees, and I really only need 1, so I'll probably either wind up selling them, giving them to neighbors, or if one of you guys are local to Southeastern North Carolina, I might be able to just give 1 away. But we'll take these over the winter, and we'll see how we do with them. My coffee trees are just doing absolutely incredible. Every week they send up all new green growth. I can't believe how much these have grown in the past 6 months. It's just absolutely incredible. They're great plants, and they're going to miss this porch absolutely terribly when I move in 3 weeks, because they just love it in here in the shade. Outside I have a lot going on here. These are all tomato seedlings that I started. I'm going to do a little bit of an experiment growing some tomato plants up against my new house on a south-facing brick wall. I want to see how they do. I have all different types here. There's a few indeterminates, and there are a few dwarf varieties. But I want to plant them up against my new house on a south-facing brick wall with a frost blanket, and I want to see how long I can keep these things alive. So that'll just be a little bit of an experiment. And these are some palmetto seeds that I collected in town and just stuck in the ground, and they all germinated, and I'm just doing this as an experiment. My potted fruit trees are doing absolutely incredibly. My red lime, which is a cold hardy dwarf variety on a trifoliate rootstock, has all nice little tiny limes all over it. So we'll see how many of these will actually set. An immature citrus tree can maintain about 1 fruit per 40 leaves, so that means if any of these hold, I'll probably have to pull off all but 1, maybe 2 fruits, because remember, these the graft union, you have a rootstock that's only a year or 2 old, but what's grafted on is a shoot from a tree that's more like 10 years old. So it thinks it's a mature tree when it is not, and it will bear so much fruit you could actually snap the base, or you could snap the branches of the trees. So you have to be careful with that. This is my trifoliate that I'm just kind of growing for fun. I'm going to use this as an ornamental, and it's gotten 2 feet tall. These are a couple of bananas that I broke off my main plant at the corm. This is the Violette de Bordeaux fig. It's doing absolutely incredibly. It's 3 feet tall or more. This is the pineapple guava, which is growing like a weed as well. You can see the different colors in the leaves. The blue-green leaves are the mature leaves, whereas the lighter green leaves are newer. So you can see how much new growth this has put out. My blood orange was putting out all new growth earlier in the year, but it seems to be catching up with itself. The new growth has stopped, but the new foliage is turning a nice dark green, so it's maturing. The satsuma is putting out just a ton of growth. The vines are getting so long, the branches are getting so long that they're coming close to hitting the ground. So I'm probably going to have to prune this over the winter, because there's a lot going on here and there's a lot to maintain, and I don't want it to become too much of a tangled mess. My Lila avocado is doing just incredibly. It's taller than I am now. It's over 6 feet tall, and it has just put out so much new growth. It's really incredible. I intend to plant this in the ground next year, and I think it will probably flower next year. It looks so good. But one of my happiest little accidents here is my variegated Eureka lemon that I had to cut down to almost nothing. You can see it's sending out flowers, and they look absolutely beautiful. So it's safe to say at this point that the tree has recovered and it is going to make it. And this is the new, larger replacement variegated pink lemonade Eureka lemon tree. There are no flowers on this yet, but I think next year it'll probably do something. Onward to the watermelon patch. My first harvest of watermelons was a failure. I harvested them too late and they were all rotten inside. They were overripe, so that was a big loss. But I cut the patch down because it was so full of disease and insect damage. It still set 2 more fruits. It's looking like the little fruit in the back, that'll probably be a loss. I just won't live here long enough that I can actually harvest that, but I may be able to get something out of this watermelon right here. So what I've been told about watermelon is you want to check the tendril, the closest tendril to the actual watermelon itself. That looks like to be this one right here, and when it is dried up to the stem, it is basically ripe. So that is this one right here, if you can see it. It looks pretty much dried up all the way. And if you want to sound your watermelon, it should kind of sound like when you hit yourself in the chest. And it's not very big, but maybe I just didn't give these things enough room to grow, and maybe the plants just aren't healthy enough. But it's sounding pretty close. I think I'm going to wait another day or two for this tendril to just get a little bit closer. I think I want to give this just a couple more days because it looks like there's still a little bit of green left for the tendril to get a little bit closer to the vine. So when that gets close, maybe in another couple of days, I will have to harvest this and make a video on it. The tomatoes have just about been picked clean. I have pulled out all of my dwarfs and thrown them away. They just weren't going to set fruit in time for me to move. I'm keeping these vines in place for the last few tomatoes on there to vine ripen, especially this nice brandy boy right here. But I'm probably going to wind up removing these within the next week. There just isn't too much left. Now, one tomato I did want to talk about is Mr. Stripey. This is one of the poorest rated tomatoes that there is on the internet, and for very good reason. It has taken me all year to set this one lousy fruit, and I am really determined to give this thing a try and see what it tastes like, but I just don't know if there's enough time left for me to eat it. The fruit set is horrible, the disease resistance is absolutely terrible, and I've never seen a plant that hornworms and caterpillars love more. You have to check it every single day because there's always a caterpillar on it. There's always new eggs that are laid underneath the leaves if you check, and the fruit set is just terrible. So this is a novelty tomato at best, and I hope that I get to try this before I move out of here. My zucchini this year was largely a failure. I only got a few fruits off the plants. I had to even replace them in the middle of the season. The squash vine borers here are just relentless, and I tried to control them organically, and that was just a big failure. Next year, I'm using 7 dust. I'm just going to use chemicals and powders. It's the only way, I think, and hopefully I'll have better luck next year. A bit of a happier story are my Burpee Longkeeper tomatoes. They are setting fruit excellently. You can see there is already a nice fruit cluster forming here. And I'm single stemming these, but there are flowers all over both of these plants. I have noticed they are a bit of a magnet for hornworms, so I've had to check them daily, and I soaked the plants the other day in BT. So I'm trying to preserve these at all costs and keep them disease-free away from the rest of my other crop. But so far, I'm very happy with the performance of the plants. They're growing very quickly. They're setting a lot of fruit and setting a lot of flower clusters. So hopefully they will taste pretty good, because if they are in fact successful and a good tasting variety, I will probably plant them later next year to get more fruit to store for the winter. My Japanese Ichiban eggplant, I've been loving this tree. I've been eating probably 2 or 3 off of these a day, and I'm getting to the point where I'm starting to pick the plant clean. There is not too much left on the vines, and that's okay. But next year I'm definitely going to grow a few more of these. I recently posted a recipe as to how to batter and bake them with some cornmeal and some tapioca starch. I really recommend you check that video out, because in my opinion they are absolutely delicious cooked this way, and I am not an eggplant fan. I was thinking about growing 2 plants this year, or I was thinking about growing 2 plants next year, but I love them so much I may even grow 3. I'm developing a little bit of an addiction when they're cooked that way. I'm starting to get some insect damage on the basil, and most of the peppers I just planted too many for me to eat, so a lot of them are rotting on the plants, but that's okay. I'm going to have to rip everything out in another 2 weeks, and there's more than enough for me to get by until I move out of this house. Next year I will make sure to do a better job on my documenting of peppers. I'll make sure to keep a better list of the varieties for you all next summer. Finally, the last thing I wanted to cover is my dwarf Orinoco banana tree. I was hoping I'd get some fruit out of it this year, but it's looking increasingly less and less likely. It's still sending out cigar leaves, which means a bud will not be coming anytime soon. It needs to send out a special leaf called a flag leaf, which is not rolled up like the one that you see here. So it's not looking good for me this year. I don't know how I'm going to maintain this over the winter, but I'm going to try. And if I can't, it's looking like I'll have plenty suckers on the bottom. I have two new trees coming out of the corm, as well as the 2 that are on my patio that I was able to pull off. All in all, this has been the best gardening year of my life. I love moving down here to North Carolina so much. The longer season, along with the mild winters, has opened up so much possibility. And it's going to be pretty sad to say goodbye to this property. I'll be moving out at the end of September. It's been really good to me, but I can't wait to move into my actual real house, not being a renter anymore, and I'll be able to actually put in an actual, fully functioning raised bed garden. That'll be a project probably over the winter that I'll share with all of you guys as soon as some money frees up. But there probably won't be too many garden updates left for me since I won't be in this house too much longer. But I really appreciate you guys following me throughout the year. I really appreciate your views. I really appreciate your comments and your subscriptions. There will be plenty more where this came from, because once I actually have some more space that I can call my own, I'm sure I will really go overboard versus what I'm doing right now. I'm really excited, and I hope to have you guys along the journey with me. Thank you for watching. If you're new to this channel, please subscribe. I'm trying to generate as much good content as I can, and I'm going to keep you regularly updated on my progress and on future projects moving forward. There will be lots. Thanks for watching, everybody.